Rev up your engines! All right, here we have a Ram truck with 143,000 miles, and it's running a little bit funky. Now, he thinks that happened right after he changed the oil. He used the correct weight oil. It was 520. He used the Walmart version. Then he kind of heard some noises, and he put in a fancier one. It didn't make any difference, depends on. It still made the noise. The one thing that I'm always worried about with these Hemis is this. V8 engines have a problem with wearing the cam out, because the old Hemis that didn't have as much power, the cam got lubrication from the crankshaft throwing oil up and hitting the cam. But then, for the more horsepower, they move the cam up too high. When you idle, you go at low speeds, the cams will run dry and eventually they wear out. Then they can make funky noises, and it's not a happy thing. I've seen guys think, oh well, the lifters are just bad. And you explain, don't just change the lifters. The lifters run on the cam. Underlyingly, it's the cam that do it. I've had people put lifters in, and then a few weeks or months later, the noise came right back, and I said, look, your cam's worn, and you just changed the lifters, you did all their work for nothing, because you're gonna have to change the cam, which is pretty much rebuilding the whole engine, if you want to do it right. That's the problem. If these are high mileage and they're on the highway all the time, they lubricate fine at highway speeds, but idling and low speeds, they don't. That's why if you own one, do not sit listening to music, having a drink, idling the engine, waiting for the train to go across. Shut the engine off, because you're wearing the cam when it's sitting there. They don't lubricate right. You never know. We're gonna get my fancy computer out and see what it says. It's older, so it's got a key, which I like. Makes working on them easier. It's the wrong key. It's got one of these crazy computer keys. I heard beeping, so it's thinking. Here we go, it's detected the vehicle already. You know, it's a Dodge, standalone diagnosis. And here we go. Okay, it's already read the VIN. These hotels are fast. They get the information up pretty quick. 2011 DS Ram 1500, there's the VIN number. So here we go. Now what we want to do is a full fault scan. It's got a cylinder number 7 misfire, which he knew about. We'll deal with that later. But it has implausible data from the ABS, and it lost communication with the transmission control module and the PCM. Those are stored faults. And the ABS says there's a vehicle configuration mismatch, and the anti-lock also lost control with the ECM and the PCM. Airbag codes, we don't give a crap about that. And tire pressure monitoring codes, we really don't care about that. You can see internal failure. That means the batteries are going out on all 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not worried about that. We don't care about the turn signal and the radio. But as you can see, this is why I warn people against Dodges. The trouble code number is 29. There's 29 of them. And again, we have, you know, the wireless control, we don't care about. Door module right front, we really don't care about that. Door module front left, that's got codes. That stuff we really don't care about. It's not running right, and he kind of feels like it's shifting a little weird too, which is transmission control stuff. So first we're going to start out with the misfire, the freeze frame. We'll see when it did it. Okay, it was in closed loop. All the other data looks okay when it occurred. The engine had a 54% load on it, and it was running rich on bank 1. Subtracting 14%. Running really rich on bank 1. Well, now this is interesting. It's showing a misfire on cylinder number 7. But it's showing bank 1 is running rich. Well, guess what? Number 7 is on bank 1. So if the number 7 wasn't firing right, of course, it would run rich. The fuel wouldn't be burning, right? So it could be as simple as this just needs an ignition coil. Well, I guess it's not his or my lucky day, because he swapped the coils, put in iridium plugs. It made no difference. It's still misfiring on cylinder number 7. So we're going to start it up. Now I can definitely hear some noise. Now I changed the fuel injector on number 7. He said it took off a little bit better, but it still has kind of a rumble. Now, that is logical because, let's face it, got 143,998 miles on it, right? The injectors have wear on them, and if you put a new one in, of course, it's going to run a little bit better, but there still seems to be something underlying. Look at the live data. Now you can see the injector pulse widths of the cylinders are all pretty much the same. So that kind of shows it's not an injector problem. He swapped it, but all you got to do is look at this data, and you can see they're all pretty much exactly the same. Number 7 does not stick out from any of them. So even if you change the injector, it could not be getting the right information, right? You change the injector, that's the end state. It's getting pulsed by the computer, but in this case, the pulse is perfectly fine. Now we'll rev it up and see if anything changes. Number 7, and they still say pretty much in range. 14, 14, 30, they're still within range. Sometimes when you accelerate it, if it starts to drop off, you know, there could be a short in the wiring, or the computer driver that drives that circuit could be bad, but it's not showing any of that stuff. Remember, black is good, red is bad, everything's still all black. The cam sync is in sync, so it's not like it's out of sync, and they're desired positions. Look, the desired and actual are exactly the same. So there's nothing wrong with the timing chain or anything. Now you can see we're just idling away, and watch, you rev it up a little. Cylinder number 7 is the only one that's misfiring. You can see it's counting the counters. The clue that kind of gives it away. You notice, we're idling, and the misfire doesn't go up. It's relatively quiet, but watch. You hear the clacking? There's the misfire. Now, see, the problem is number 7 is on bank 1 that's running rich. Number 7 is the last one. Back in there. And on top of having cam problems because they don't get lubricated at low speeds, the number 7 one on these is usually the first one to go because of how the engine's designed. The back cylinder doesn't get as much cooling as the other the way it's designed. The water jackets inside that the coolant goes through, they don't lubricate the last cylinder as well. So that's normally the one that goes out first anyway. And it's just starting to go out. As soon as we revved it up, the misfire started counting and you heard the ticking. I've seen guys do this, and if you want to be a little bit on the shady side, they will replace the lifters on number 7 and they'll sell it. And if it's worn a little bit, put in the new lifters on just the number 7 cylinder, the noise could go away, the misfire could go away. Now mind you, it's going to come back because the cam's worn, right? And it's going to wear the lifter because the lifter sits on the cam pushes it. So you could do that if you're a little bit disreputable, you want to sell it to somebody and have it run perfectly fine. Like I say, it isn't going to last all that long, but it would stop it. Now, he said that this kind of started after he changed the oil. And it very well could be, because when you change oil and you put new oil in the vehicle, realize when you first start the car, of course, it's starting up dry. So something that was almost worn all the way decided, okay, that's it, I'm wearing more now. So it only does it when it's revving up. You saw, it didn't misfire when it was idling. And he says once it gets going on a highway at a steady speed, it can be okay. It's the acceleration that you get a little jerking because it's misfiring on that cylinder. And since it's misfiring on that cylinder, the engine gets flagged as running rich on that bank. 7 is in bank number 1, and bank 1 was running rich. And of course, with modern technology, it's running rich, so what does the computer do? It tries to make it run leaner, but it's running incorrectly. And so when it makes it run leaner, then it runs even worse. The one that's not firing is still not firing, but the other ones now, they're not going to have enough gas, they won't have enough power, and that's why it feels the lurching. Sometimes bad when it's trying to take off, because the computer is basically trying to make the left side of the engine run lean while the right side is running normal. And it's not going to run right. That's why it jiggles. You got a V8 engine that's smooth because it's got a nice V configuration for balancing, but then it's trying to make one side run leaner while the other side's running normal. So it's going to have a little bit of jiggling to it too. So unfortunately, there we have it. A reason not to buy a higher mileage Ram that's got the Hemi engine, because a lot of them do end up having problems with the cam inside the engine wearing because of their design. His sister bought it, she had no problems with it. He's had it for like 36,000 miles, and this is the first problem he's had. But it's a giant problem. The engine is going to have to be taken apart and repaired, and to do that correctly, I told him all the options he's got. He could, if he could find somebody in a junkyard that he knew or a friend knew, and they had a wrecked one that's got 50, 60, 70,000 miles or so, the engine's still going to have a lot of life in it, and they've made millions of these Hemi engines, so there's a lot of them out there. But the problem is, if you go to a place that rebuilds them, a lot of times they don't know what they're doing. I had a guy bring one in that was rebuilt. His engine went, but it was under warranty. So Dodge put a rebuilt engine in. When he got home, there's a giant pile of oil under a truck, and the oil was pouring out of the back of the engine because they didn't rebuild it right and put the rear main seal of the engine in correctly. So you're even taking a gamble with that. But if you could find a low mileage used engine, that would be the best way to go. You're going to fix it right, you got to take the whole engine apart. If you're going to replace the cam, 144,000 miles, you got to do it all. The bearings, the pistons, everything. The valves, it wouldn't be worth it. You're better off trying to find a real low mileage used engine and throw it in. But if you're ever looking at one of these things, do what I just did, listen to them. You feel a misfire like that, take it to a mechanic like me. He took it to different people and they all said, well, they don't know what's wrong. They tried different things. 15, 20 minutes of analysis. Then I would tell the guy, don't buy this particular vehicle. And if it didn't have a problem and it was lower mileage, I'd say, oh, it's been taken care of, don't idle it much. But in this case, maybe his sister idled it all the time, I don't know. But the engine's going out and now he's got to decide what to do with it. You don't want to get stuck with one of these yourself. Always have a mechanic check out one of these before you buy it so you don't end up in a pickle like this. Or perhaps do buy one with an engine that's shot and pay practically nothing. You could actually buy brand new engines for a reasonable amount of money and put a brand new engine in. So if you can get one with a blown engine for $2-3 grand or something, what the heck? Put a brand new engine in it. But don't buy a used one and then have to do it later on, because that's not cost effective. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.